You could feel like you have the best offer in the world, but if you don't know how to break down that offer in a way that hits both sides of your prospect's brain, they're not gonna make a decision to move forward with you no matter how much you convince them. That's gonna leave you frustrated, it's gonna make you feel like you've tried everything and nothing worked, and it's gonna make you feel like you're not even doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing, which makes you wanna give up. I'm gonna solve all that for you in this video. Just give me a little bit of your time. Let's dive in. There's a 5-stage offer breakdown that I'm gonna teach you in this video, and each different stage is gonna build on top of the other one. I'm a big acronym guy because I think acronyms are a lot easier to remember. Unfortunately, this acronym is not easy to remember at all because it doesn't make any fucking sense. But here's the acronym that I want you to write down if you have a pen and a piece of paper. You probably don't because you're probably listening to this in your phone while you're doing something else and you're not gonna remember any of the video. But if you actually wanna get something from the video, I recommend you stop what you're doing, be present, get a pen and paper, and take some freaking notes so that you can actually change your business. Let's go. The acronym you're gonna write down, FTEIT. 5 stages, each letter is a different stage. We're gonna dive into what those are right now. The core problem most offers have, one of two things. Either one, they're completely lost in the features. All they talk about are the bells and whistles. That's full logic and full left brain, and there's no right brain. There's no emotion. The left side of the brain handles logic, the right side of the brain handles emotion. If you don't have both, you're not gonna get committed buyers. You're gonna get people that you really have to force into a sale. Now, on the flip side, the other problem is that some people are way too emotion driven and they're using very vague languages and things that don't really matter. You see this a lot in the spiritual community. Oh, just become your highest self and have manifested magnetic energy so that you're always in abundance and you're creating that. Everyone's like, literally, what the fuck are you talking about? Because it's so far high outside of what people can conceptualize with logic that it doesn't even matter. So if you've ever heard somebody talk and you're like, that sounds like a scam, it's because they're going way too far on the right and they don't have anything rooted in logic. So with that being said, let's dive into the actual framework. Stage 1, that F stands for feature. Feature is gonna hit the left side of the brain. This is where we're diving the most into logic. This is like your ingredient list. This is about what's included. It has to be specific, it has to be tangible and verifiable in the prospect's mind in order for it to add validity to what you're talking about. A key principle for you to understand when you're talking about features, you have to be precise. Saying something like ongoing support, that actually creates distrust in the prospect. Vagueness creates distrust. It's weak. If I say a weekly 60-minute group call every Tuesday at 12 p.m. for the next 8 weeks, that's strong. It's very specific. It's very specific and it's very precise. That builds trust. So the features have to be precise and they have to build trust, and it's gonna root me in logic of understanding what the thing is. But now that is not going to be enough until we go to phase 2, stage 2, which is the translation. And if you think about the translation, this is the bridge. This is where we start creating how we go from the left side of the brain to the right side of the brain. Now, what that bridge is, if you think about the question that a prospect has at this stage, what does that feature actually do for me? That's what they're asking themselves. So the first stage in feature is, what is it exactly? Then we're gonna go into, what does that feature actually do for me? That's where I have to focus on this. So if you can think of the formula, you can think about 2 ways to start a sentence if you're gonna talk about this. We have this insert feature, which means that, tell them what it means. We have this feature, so you can tell them what they can do. 12 live coaching calls, which means you can get on a call every single week and get live real-time feedback so you never stay stuck for longer than 7 days again. Now, what I did there is I gave them a positive, you're going to get your questions answered in real time, and then I paired it to a negative where most people get stuck. You'll never stay stuck for longer than 7 days. A big pain point in a lot of prospects is that they stay stuck for a very long period of time. This is where even entrepreneurs in my community, people who hire us for business coaching and consulting, it doesn't matter what stage you're at. You could be at $1 million a month, but if you've been stuck there for the last 5 years, that's gonna start getting pretty frustrating for somebody who's hardwired for growth. So if I can touch on that inside of what I'm talking about, my features do for somebody, it doesn't matter what level the prospect is at, I'm going to hit them and I'm gonna make them wanna move over and start listening more about what I have to say. Something to think about is that one feature can have multiple different translations towards the prospect. You always wanna translate towards the prospect's specific context, not general context. So like I just said, with the entrepreneur example, if you're stuck at a certain income, you need somebody telling you things in real time so that every single week you're touching base with somebody over and over and over again. In Alchemist Academy, my tier 1 program for entrepreneurs making less than $20K a month in their business, we have 17 live calls a month. That is more than 2 calls a week every single week. A lot of the industry doesn't have a lot of support. Some people are used to getting sold false promises. They get into the program and then all of a sudden they're ghosts and they're left fighting for their life. We actually wanted to do the opposite. So I overwhelm people with the amount of the support that they have access to, and they don't even know which calls to get on because there's so many. I would much rather have an excess of support than the opposite. That's why I do what I do, and that also creates a bridge of this is the feature, this is what it does for you if you're thinking about joining my program in the first place. I have to understand that one feature can have multiple translations. I get to choose what translation I think is gonna hit my prospect the farthest, hardest, deepest. It's gonna hit them hard, okay? It's gonna hit them in some way, shape, or form. Stage 3, we'll just move on and pretend I didn't mess that up, is experience. That E stands for experience. This is full right brain. We're talking emotion, and that is where we're getting emotionally charged now. If I have all of the logic, but I don't have a bridge that then pulls me into the emotion, the logic isn't going to sell as many people as you think. You'll have people who are logical buyers, yes, but a large majority of people are either both or emotional. Very few logic buyers. So this stage, you're answering the question for the prospect, what will I actually feel when this is working? Now we shift from function, features, and we have to move the prospect into sensation. This is where you start to paint the emotional texture of the result so that they can feel it. Yeah, the outcome, it has to be textured. If I can't touch, taste, feel, or see it, it's gonna be very hard for me to take action on it, especially if that action comes with me giving you money. Because money for me is very tangible. If I'm in a situation where I'm stuck or I'm in scarcity, I'm gonna be very analytical. Money feels so real to somebody who's in scarcity. So if you have this thing that's very real for me and you're asking me to give it to something that doesn't feel real, I'm not going to do it. So the formula for this, if you think about it, it's like after you're talking about the features in the bridge, you can say something like, imagine a world where, imagine the day you wake up and imagine when you look in the mirror and, or you could say, picture the moment when. So I'm just getting them to visualize their future now. Picture the moment when you take the whole weekend off and on Monday you open up your laptop and you realize that you have a bajillion applications and your pipeline's completely full because you've built a brand that sells for you without having to always be on top of your DMs. Some of you watching this might go, damn, that sounds nice. That's you seeing that. You can actually see and experience in the moment what it would look like to open your laptop and have 50 sales calls booked for the month or for the week without even having to lift a finger in the DMs. That sounds pretty ideal. Now your biggest problem is I don't have the systems or the people for how many leads that I'm getting. I don't know about you, but I'm sure almost everybody watching this would rather have that problem than the current problem that you're dealing with. If not, cool. Here's an example that I wrote down for you. Imagine opening your laptop on a Monday morning and your pipeline's already full. You didn't do cold outreach, you're not chasing people, and you have zero anxiety about where that next client is coming from. That's a tangible outcome that drives emotion. Man, I'll feel peace. Man, I'll feel fulfilled. I'll feel good. I won't have anxiety. I'm also giving you contrast. You don't have the anxiety. I'm rooting it back into another emotion that might be undesired and also talking about an emotion that is desired. That's really gonna drive home that emotional charge for somebody when you're talking about your offer. Use sensory or situational language. So if you think about it, the time of place, the physical setting, etc. Like I said, imagine it's Monday morning, you open your laptop. So there's a physical thing that you're doing, there's a time, and that's putting you in the room of that visual experience, which is going to drive more emotions and also root it in logic if you can see a daily action that you always do. Those all deepen the image. Then we move to stage 4. Arguably, actually not even arguably, stage 4 is the most important. It's the I, it stands for identity. And if you know anything about me and the work that I do, it is that identity is the leading cause of anything and everything in your life. It is the root behind every action somebody does or does not take. So if you are trying to build a business, it doesn't matter what you're selling. And I want to make something abundantly clear about this framework. It does not matter what you sell. I just hosted a mastermind teaching this exact framework, and I had everybody in there from coaches, consultants, land developers, people who are doing real estate, everything in between, and every single person saw where they could plug this into their business. When you think about identity, you're answering a question for the prospect. The question that the prospect is asking is, who will I become because of this? Who will I become? This is the deepest layer of all of this, and this is where you create the most committed buyers. When we're trying to take somebody into a transformation, You have to name the identity shift that occurs at the same time. Think about this as a formula. You become the person who. This is for you if you're ready to be who. You decide that. And now what you're doing is you're no longer telling people, hey, I don't work with you if you're like this. That's a very lower consciousness, very condescending type of way to speak to people. And you can absolutely tastefully tell people who you do or don't work with. I prefer to focus on, these are the type of people that I work with. I work with you if you're somebody who's ready to do X. I work with you if you're somebody who wants to do Y. If you look at my Instagram bio, there's one very clear 2 words that are in the bottom of my Instagram bio, and it says visionaries only. And that right there shows everybody exactly who my work is for. So if anybody comments on shit and says, you know, this video sucks, or this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or whatever, I no longer take those comments as a personal attack on me. I literally just say, not a visionary. Simple. Actually, I know you don't resonate with my work because my work isn't for you. My work is for visionaries only. So only visionaries are going to watch this, see this, and go, wow, I see what the value is. That's what I focus on. And that's what you need to focus on too. Let's give you an example of what this looks like. You stop being the founder who is good at the work and bad at selling it, but you become the person in the room who can articulate their value so clearly that price objections instantly disappear. Quick side story about this. We just hosted a live 3-day event in Austin, Texas. One of our attendants, he made a reel going over it, and I read the caption, and he said something that I thought was pretty cool, and it's a good teaching lesson. He said, you had all of the objections for what was gonna happen and why he shouldn't come. And one of the things he said was, I was waiting for Nick to make a pitch and sell people on something, and he never did. Yet he still had a line of people at the stage waiting to pay him money. The reason that happens at these live events is because I focus so much on the experience, the value, and the identity. I don't have to pitch. People quite literally were lining up at the stage saying, hey, I wanna sign up for this part of the program. Or, hey, I wanna sign up for this program. What's the price? Here's my card. And that's great. I love that. That's not my intention with why I'm doing things. My intention is, how do I call somebody up into a higher identity? And I trust that when I call you into that higher identity, you will follow your intuition for what is the best move for you. If that best move is coming towards me, that's honestly amazing. If that best move is you going to somebody else or doing something on your own, that's also amazing. My job is not tied to the outcome. My job is tied to the transformation. That's where you need to be focusing, is how can you help people shift? How can you help people see a different reality? And if they can see that for themselves, they either will see you as a part of that or they won't, and that's okay. When you're using identity language, it should always feel like an elevation. It should always be aspirational. When I say visionaries only, now I can start having content. Hey, we're the type of people that do this. I want people who want to make the world a better place. I want people who see that they have a gift inside of them and they want to know how to expand it and help more people and reach more people in X, Y, and Z. And I can keep going and going, but I'm never going to criticize somebody for where they're at right now. That is the opposite of what a visionary does. So it's not what I do in my marketing, and I don't think it's what you should do in yours. And then we finish off with stage 5, which is transfer. And the one thing that you have to transfer to a prospect that is the most important is belief. When you get on a sales call, or you're even in the DMs, let's just talk about a sales call though. When you get on a sales call, the prospect is trying to transfer the belief to you that they can't do it, and you're trying to transfer the belief to them that they can. And whoever is more grounded and rooted in their truth is going to sway the other person. If you do not close somebody on a deal, it's probably because 1, you don't have this framework locked in for your business, and 2, you were having a hard time transferring your belief into them, and they transferred their belief into you, and you went, oh God, I guess they really can't afford it. You transferred their belief. I tried everything, they just couldn't do it. No, they transferred their belief to you and they won. Not that there's a winner or a loser in a sales call, but you get what I'm saying. So with stage 5, we're transferring, right? This is where left and right brain come together because we're transferring belief. And beliefs, in order for them to stick, they also have to be rooted in a perception of logic. So this question, the prospects, yeah, it all sounds great. I see what it is. I see what it can do for me. I see what I can experience. I see who I can become. But then there's one final question of the objection. Why should I believe any of this would happen to me? And that's gonna be where they sit. You've got everything, but why should I believe this will happen to me? This final stage, this is where you're closing all the loops by grounding the emotional promise back in evidence. Evidence has to be tangible, it has to be precise. And this is gonna, when you do that, it re-engages the left brain to ratify the decision the right brain has already made. What you don't wanna do, if you don't do this, all that enthusiasm, it fades away into skepticism. And if you're sick of always having clients that are super excited on the phone and they pay you and they sign up and then 2 days later they go, hey, actually I was looking at my bank account, I talked to my wife, I really can't do this, it's not a smart move for me right now, I wasn't thinking logically. That is a mirror for how you're handling your sales pipeline. If you're not rooted in how valuable what you offer is, you're gonna start to use a lot of right brain emotional vague things, and you can get somebody an emotional charge for sure. But if I get you in an emotional frenzy and I use that emotional frenzy to sign you, one, I think that's manipulation, but two, I'm setting myself up for you to now fill in the holes with your own logic, and that logic is usually gonna be rooted in fear. So now you're going to say, hey, this was the wrong decision for me. I don't have that inside of my company because one, we don't push people for sales, and two, I make sure everybody knows what features they're getting, they understand the logic, they understand what it can do for them, they understand why they don't get it anywhere else in the industry, they understand who I turn them into, they understand what type of visionary I will build them into, and then I have all of the evidence that I support my claims with in my own life, my client's life, etc. There's 3 transfer mechanisms that you can use to help people this. The first one is case studies and results, which is what I just talked about. You have a video testimonial, you have before and after photos, you have case studies, you have whatever these are. This is proof of concept. This allows the prospect to see that and think, oh, that could be me. That's what you need for them. The next one is the explanation of the mechanism. What's your unique mechanism? What's your method? What's the reason you're doing the thing that you're doing that's different from everybody else? It's kind of like a logical pathway to the result, if you think about that. Hey, I have a 4-step framework that goes through this, and then we do this because you need both of these before this happens, and then this happens. If you read my book, Surrender, you know about my ascension ladder for the stages of surrender. It's a great example. If you haven't bought it yet, it's available on Amazon. Link in the description box. Right, Owen? He's not even paying attention. He's on his phone. So the right brain function of this is it's going to reduce fear of the unknown, because you see I've got a tangible process. You see that I understand my method and my framework. So now it's like, oh, okay, this actually makes logical sense, and it's not something that's like a figmented imaginatory thing. I see it. The last one is a specificity of process. And that sounds kind of like the same thing, but I want to specify the process because credibility is built through detail. The more detailed you are with your process, the more as you talk, I go, oh my God, this makes a lot of sense. Pitch for these guys, I'm not getting anything from this, but there's a community being built in Austin called The Sanctuary, and they've pretty much got me sold to buy a home there. They're a biohacking community, and they're giving me all the specificity of the details. Hey, we're building with metal and concrete so that there's no mold, so that it's cooler inside, less energy. We're wrapping all of the wires and things that protect any electrical charges from coming out of it. You have rainwater that gets captured into a well and then it pumps back into your house with an ozone filtration system, et cetera. Like all this shit, so specific, so detailed, copper pipes. And I was like, dude, I'm sold because they had so much specificity in the detail. It gave them credibility, and it also created confidence in them as a guide. So I have confidence in them guiding me in this decision because that's the type of life that I want to be living. So the more specific I can get, and maybe even with this piece of content, because this is a very specific and tangible thing for you guys to follow, maybe you're looking at this and now all of a sudden I've built more confidence in you to see me as a guide. That's the whole ethos of what we do. That's why we're specific. And that's why if your content's not hitting and you're not building authority, it's because you probably don't know enough about what you're selling to be credible and be specific. So example, think about it. People are like, well, how does this work exactly? So you can just call out the elephant in the room. Hey, I know what you're thinking. You're sitting there, this all sounds good, but how do I know it's going to work for me? Or I could say something like, here's exactly why this works for somebody like you, even though you think that it won't. I can just call that elephant out in the room right there with that little sentence, and then I can almost catch them like, whoa, I was just thinking that. Yeah, I know you were, because everybody thinks that. Credibility. I was so specific about the thought process, it's almost like I've done this before. So think about it like this. We'll go with the example that I wrote for us. Most programs give you strategy and no structure. What I'm building here in the cohort, for example, this week's because every week builds on the last week. This is a specific sequence, and I have over 200 people that I've ran through this exact cohort. Here's exactly what happened for Owen on week 6. He was struggling with this, struggling with that, and then when he came in on week 6, we talked about this, made this tweak to his content, and he woke up and he had 25 calls that booked. That's the evidence. That takes everything from the right, it roots it in logic. And I even did another contrast. Owen was struggling with this. Then on week 6, we did this. This is how we implemented it in his content. This is what he woke up with. Now you see the outcome again. So I'm just constantly flipping back and forth. Right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain, both. Something to think about with this actually. These 5 stages, it's a phenomenal framework to use for a VSL. It's a phenomenal framework to build a landing page. It's also an amazing framework for sales calls, for your content. You've seen, I've given multiple examples that were maybe 60 seconds or less that took somebody through these entire stages. That's all my goal is. Rowan wants to say hello. You can weave these through all of these different aspects, but I think something that's really important to understand is that these 5 stages aren't necessarily linear. They're not necessarily, it has to be 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5. There will be times where I can just talk about 5. I can just do evidence. Like I just did this example with Owen. I just talked about the evidence. Here's exactly why this works. Here's what it is. Here was this thing. I'd give the contrast and everything, and that could be enough. I could go 5, then I could go into the features for 1, then I could bridge, then I can go into the identity, then I could do the outcome, then I could route back to logic. There's so many different ways you can do this. And the thing to understand is that when you have a framework like this, when you have a set of principles, the goal is to continuously implement them over and over again so it becomes rooted in your subconscious mind. I don't actually have to think about what I'm saying right now. Obviously, I have my things written down to make sure that I have everything I want to show you guys. But when I'm giving these examples and I'm randomly throwing in the contrast of what Owen was struggling with in biz, that's naturally instilled in me because I just consistently put this into practice on content, on sales calls, in person, with YouTube videos, etc. So there's a couple, I'm gonna finish this off, 4 common failures that people do when they're using this. So the first thing is most people stop at stage 1. They list all the features, 0 transition, and that's gonna only hit the left brain, but there's not gonna be any desire that happens from that. Cool, features are great, but if it's not rooted to me desiring something new in my life, a new experience, it's gonna be hard for me to move forward. The other one is people jump straight to stage 3 without the bridging process of stage 2. This is very whiplashy for the prospect. So if I said, hey, we've got, I do calls every single week because you're gonna become a person who can be abundant and attract everything you want and be magnetic. Everyone's like, huh? What? But if I say, actually, let's use an actual real example instead of me always shitting on the spiritual community, even though they deserve it. Keep it in. I say, we've got the 12 weekly group calls so that real-time effort or real-time feedback, etc. You never stay stuck for longer than 7 days. I've got that. That's the what. But then I say, so that you can wake up, have a pipeline full of clients, etc. Now imagine if I removed the why it's good for you and I said, hey, we've got 12 weekly group calls so that you can be the person who wakes up and has a completely full pipeline of clients. That kind of sounds like a scam. Doesn't make any sense. So that bridge, that transition is actually crucial to silence the chatter in somebody's brain that what you're doing is a scam. I'm empathetic. Dude, people are scam artists. People fucking suck. That's why you need to have a process like this to present your offer in a way to understand. I need to let somebody see that this is a logical decision, and I also have to root them into an identity that has an emotional charge for an outcome and who they're going to be. If I have those 2 things and I'm not a piece of shit and I actually have a business that's in integrity, I deserve to be making more money because I finally know how to articulate my gift. Next, skipping stage 4. Oh my gosh. Delivering functional outcomes without identity it's quite literally nuts. This is where you're only getting people who are price sensitive. The price, it's a little much. I'm gonna give you a fucking nugget right now. People don't actually buy the outcome, they buy a future version of themselves. All my sales training to talk about features are not value, outcomes are value. That is true. But I am buying who I'm going to be. I am buying a future version of myself. So if I'm doing the functional outcomes, but it's not rooted in identity, it's gonna feel very transactional. Like I said, people are gonna be very low commitment and all they're gonna care about is price. When you're hitting things the right way, people don't care about the price. And if you think about it like this, most of you guys are struggling to sign somebody for $500 a month. You can't even get $500 from somebody. Or let's call it a $5,000 pay in full for your program. And you're like, nobody buys, nobody has money right now. One, that's a story, and you're creating that story, and now all you wanna do is prove that story true. So when you get on a sales call, in the back of your mind, you're like, I know this person's gonna say no like everybody else. So you have that energy towards it. Bunch of women being loud, per usual. If your prospect could see, feel, and fully understand that the problem that they are struggling with right now would be 100% solved, and they could see without a shadow of a doubt who they would be, how they would feel, and what they would be experiencing, they would find $5,000 like this. Price is not an objection when somebody can actually see what the price is going to get them. If you're having price objections, you need to focus on them being able to see and then logically see at the same time where you're taking them. That's what you have to focus on. Not another fucking sales program, not how to handle certain objections. You handle all objections when you hit both sides of the brain and you have a product that sells itself. And the last one is omitting stage 5. If you inspire the prospect, but you don't leave them with any rational justification, this is where it's kind of like, if you have a lot of people in your pipeline, they're like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. And they like, you want to hop on a call and then they ghost you. Or you get a bunch of people on the call and when they're super pumped on the call, this sounds amazing, exactly what I want. You're like, cool, let's talk about the price. And they go, ooh, no, I can't do that. So really high interest, really low conversion when you have them in that like right brain emotional space, but you don't root them back with evidence for logic. That is what allows them to have a high interest and a high conversion, because now they have a high level of commitment to who they know they want to be. I hope that makes sense. So a complete offer breakdown, it has all 5 of these. If you're missing one, or I should say rather, if your brand and your offer isn't scaling, but you know that you've got something good, it's probably something as simple as you missing one of these 5 stages. Because if you have all 5 of these, you're giving every type of buyer exactly what they need to say yes, assuming you have a good product. If you don't have a good product or service, this video is not for you. So these are the 5 stages, the framework FTEIT: feature, translation, experience, identity, and transfer. Core questions, right? We're going left side of the brain, bridge, right side of the brain, then the right side of the brain again, deep with the transformation. And then we're finishing off with the left side of the brain in the logic, and then we're also tying the right side of the brain in with that evidence. So we're answering 5 different questions. These are all going to be on the screen for you right here. What is it? What does it do? What will I feel? Who will I become? Why should I believe it? If you follow this framework, I can almost guarantee you that your conversions go up substantially. If you guys have made it this far in the video, I want to say thank you so much. I'm really enjoying making these videos again, and I really appreciate every single person leaving a like and a comment. It really, really does help the page grow. Owen does a phenomenal job editing these, and I know he appreciates it when he sees our videos doing well as well. So if you could just do me a quick favor, if you got any value from this at all, even if it was one nugget, could I ask for 30 seconds of your time? I know you've already given me probably 20 minutes, and I really appreciate that. Can I ask for 30 more seconds for you to give it a like, subscribe, and drop a quick comment about what your biggest takeaway is? And if you really want to get crazy, you can turn on notifications so the next time we post a video, you're one of the first people to know. I'll see you guys in the next one.